Hi everyone, welcome. It's August, so you know what that means. It's back to school time. And I assume if you're watching this, you're probably taking an AP course or maybe considering taking one. Today we're going to answer some frequently asked questions about AP courses in general. We have experts from a variety of fields here, so we're here to help you out. As we get along in this video, if you have any questions, specific questions, go to our chat, ask questions there. We'll have a moderator who can answer them there. Before we start, I'm going to introduce each of us. I'm Paxton. I am a former high school math teacher, but I'm also just kind of know a lot about AP, SAT, ACT, all of those courses and tests in general.
I'm Travis. I taught AP US History and AP US Government, but I like all of the histories, even the ones that I didn't teach.
I am Simon, and I am the AP Science subject matter expert. I primarily teach biology at the college level, but I also do the AP reading for a couple of courses. So I look forward to these questions.
All right, let's get started. So the first question, what do you think is the biggest myth that students believe about AP courses or AP exams?
I think the biggest myth is that your life is over. But as soon as you take that AP course, or 4 or 5, however many you have, is that your life is over from August until May. And it's not true. It's all about balance, right? It's all about balance. And with that, what I mean is like there's naturally going to be courses I think that you might be more strongly suited to. It could be the math and sciences. And so you may have to come up with different strategies for the histories. But there is a balance. Like it's not realistic to assume that every AP student out there, like this is your life for the 9 months. You know we were students once. Yeah. It shouldn't consume your life, but at the same time, you're gonna have to work for it.
You have those extracurriculars that also are important
right.
for your future, for yourself, for your health. Everything that you're doing on top of your AP courses
right.
is also valid and important for whatever future you go into.
Right.
So I think that's a great point.
I think for the sciences, I see it all the time that for environmental science, they think that is an easy course. It's the easiest course. They don't have to study for it. They just go and take the exam and hope for the best. But actually the scores, the distribution shows that it's one of the hardest tests. Physics is the only one last year that only had like 1% lower score for the pass rates. So it's kind of crazy to see like, oh, it's the easiest one, but it's actually one of the hardest tests.
Why do you think that happens? Do you think it's because people go into it thinking it's easy, or?
I think because APES is more of a global course. You have to know a little bit of biology, you have to know a little bit of chemistry, you have to know a little bit of geology even, and so it touches a little bit on all these different courses. So maybe it's not as in depth as say like a physics course, and so they're like, I don't need to know as much. I know environmental science, right? Like I there's weather and I know it, right?
I've heard of climate change. I could do really well in that course.
Yeah, exactly. And it's much more than that. So
yeah, I think for all APs in general, especially math, I think, and we'll probably touch on this in a little bit too, but it's not about memorization at all.
It's not.
And I think that's what stands out between like a regular course and an AP course. It's truly getting that understanding and not just memorizing, going away from your comfort zone of memorizing, because if you're taking AP, you're probably somewhat of an advanced student. You probably can do a lot of the steps that you need to take to solve a question or things like that. But it's a step further with AP, right? Like these courses are designed to mimic college, to prove to colleges that you have an understanding of that course that you can take into that next level and go on to skipping that course because you took it in AP, you understand it. So that deep understanding is huge in AP. And, so I think that's the biggest myth is the memorization aspect of it, especially with the maths. You can't just memorize the formula. You got to go further.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think
Okay.
that hits it.
Second question. What do you think the real difference is between a student who gets a 3 and one who gets a 5? So I don't know if you want to go course specific for maybe like English or science.
So I think mine feeds off what you just said.
Yeah.
Memorization, right? I think students who go for that 3 or get that 3 is just because they memorize the info. But for sciences especially, it's an application-based test. So it's all about the scenarios and the certain situations. And you have to be able to think on your feet. It has to be like, how does the knowledge I know that I memorize, how does it apply in these different scenarios across these different topics? Can I link things together? And I think that's so critical in jumping from that 3 to a 5 is really understanding the why and kind of the processes behind, not just memorization.
And there was something you said in there about like, yes, I memorize this, but now how do I apply it? And I think that is important and maybe something I missed with my first question. You do still have to memorize. Like you still have to understand and memorize those concepts but then take it that step further. And that's exactly what I was going to say with math too. A 3 can do all the math, but a 5 needs to really be able to explain why they did that math.
Yeah, I think the difference is it's hard work. It is not intelligence, because I remember students who, they kind of saw the kids that got a 5 as just like, they were just like geniuses. And it wasn't that at all. I mean, there were some kids that were generally kind of better at the histories, or they saw themselves as being better at the histories. But it's the kids that put in the work that went beyond just kind of, like you said, memorizing, but they really wanted to understand it. And there was a hint, they really wanted to learn. It wasn't just they wanted a high grade or they wanted to get a 5. They were genuinely interested. They made themselves be interested in the course. And then they kind of got a 5 as a result. So I think it's all about the work. And because I've had students who were brilliant, but just they came in and kind of did the bare minimum. They coasted. And they did get it. And
they're always good.
Right. And then the next year you'd see them in the hall and they were like, I got a 3. What happened? I'm like, well, we don't have enough time to go into that.
I remember my AP chemistry teacher the next year came and found me in my AP physics class, I think, and yelled at me in front of the class, like, why did you get a 3? You are so much better at this than a 3, which a 3, I was like happy with my 3.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Great, I got college credit. That's what I wanted. So, keep aiming for the 3 if you're trying to get the 3 or up. But it was just that point of like, you can do all of this.
Right.
Why didn't you apply it?
Right.
And that's what I told her. I was like, I didn't take the time to go that step further.
Right. Well, because I mean, the scores are 3 is qualified.
Right.
And 5 is extremely qualified. So
And that equates to more hours potentially.
right. And
so.
that 5 gets your foot in the door more places with college hours earned.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me that you said the students who maybe like coasted versus those that had to or had that desire to learn. I think that's huge. Mm-hmm. All right. We've kind of already gone over this one a little bit, but I'd still like to get your thoughts. Is memorization or deep understanding more important, and why?
Okay, so I'm going to give an answer you're probably not going to like, which is both.
Okay.
But I'm going to explain that more. So you can't have memorization without deep understanding.
Yeah.
And so one kind of comes before the other. And so you can't just go in and start making flashcards of the 100 most important things if you haven't already understood the coursework.
Or why it
Why it matters. Yeah. And so if you can understand the why and the how, I'm talking about histories.
Yeah.
Then all those, the who and the what's and the what, they kind of fall in place. So there is a balance. And so you have to focus on the big picture narratives, because the College Board is not asking they're not asking you to memorize every single fact. So I want to make sure that you understand that and you have the freedom in this upcoming year. But what they want you to do is understand the big picture. And as you understand the kind of bigger picture, those things kind of fall into place.
Did you see that, like, that kind of being a common myth of your students of like, oh, history, I just need to know this came first and then this happened and then this.
Yeah, we could tell them like that doesn't matter. That act is not going to be on there. Yeah. It's not necessarily. It's the movements and it's the eras and the things that go inside that. Like that one piece of legislation, that's not a huge deal. But what were the ideas behind it in the preceding 20 years?
So here's a maybe difficult question, and if you can't answer it,
I'll do my best.
Do your best. What do you think? APUSH, for example, because I know that's what you've taught primarily. But what is one example of something they should memorize?
Oh, wow. Okay, put me on the spot.
I know.
Okay.
If you can't,
it's
okay.
The one thing what we should do to memorize is go into the different 9 periods and memorize why each of those years is important. So, for example, why did the College Board pick 1800 why did they pick 1848? And then what you can start to do is kind of, and I'm going to get to this later in a different question about how you can understand the big picture and then the small things at the same time. So yeah, know those dates of why they picked those.
And I don't know if this is something that teachers in general talk about, but College Board provides the course exam and description for anyone to access.
It's huge.
And so if you haven't heard of that, check out for whatever AP courses you're looking at, check out that CED or course exam description document, because it goes through all of that. It goes through, hey, here are the years, here are the concepts that are in the years, basically, and some objectives that your teacher's going to go over. So that's what your teacher uses and what we use here at UWorld to help prepare you for your exam. So
That's what they build the exam from.
that's what they build the exam from. Like,
literally
use your resources that the College Board provides on top of what your teacher provides and what we provide, and really study that. And I think that's a really good tip that not everyone.
Yeah, people
makes
forget
sense.
people forget to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, I answer a lot of Reddit posts from our UWorld accounts for the sciences. And that's the one thing I always recommend is at the beginning, start making your notes by using the CED.
CED.
Those essential knowledge statements are key and critical to learning everything about the courses. And on top of that, the CEDs has so much more about, all about the FRQs, how the test is laid out.
Even the labs for the scientists. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, it's your document, your foundational document that you should really
Yeah, print it out and mark it up.
Print it out, mark it up for every unit.
for sciences.
Yeah, for the history. Yeah,
We're
for the
environmentally
friendly. Yeah, okay.
So
Print it up and then recycle it when you're done. How's that? Okay.
perfect.
Or
Thank you, yes.
just do it on your computer, whatever, on your iPad, whatever.
Fair enough. Whatever.
You got. Okay, well, we kind of got off track, but is there anything else about memorization versus deep understanding for you, Simon?
I think for me, it's exactly what Travis said, except backwards. I think for sciences, you have to know and memorize kind of the foundational stuff for you then to be able to have a deep understanding of it, to be able to apply and to answer the why. So it's in conjunction, but it's the same kind of idea and principle. You need to have a good foundation before you can build up your house.
The safer math, I would say, because everything is similar to science. Everything builds on top of the next. And so, kind of a mix of both. But remember, that's what makes the three stand out from the five. The memorization versus the deep understanding. Yep. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going through, because all hope is not lost if you're a memorizer, but take it that step further, challenge yourself. All right, next question. What's a study habit that works in a regular class but actually backfires in AP?
Okay, so this is an easy one because I taught both. Okay. I've taught AP courses and I've taught all level courses. The strategy that will backfire is if you do all the work in class. Like you just show up and like you just you do what's asked of you in class and that's it. And that might get by, but in an AP course there is work that has to be done outside of your classroom. It doesn't matter what AP course. You probably back me up on this. Whether it's in the history, whether it's reading, and the other subjects. Assume it's similar. There's a lot of stuff that comes. That you have to do. You can't just rely on your teacher to just spoon feed you the information and then regurgitate it on a test, which might get you past
in the course.
Yeah.
I'll let you pass in the course.
Yeah. But even in the AP course, I mean, you have to be able to, you have to put in. We're not saying like, hey, 4 hours every night. Don't talk to your friends. No, you've got to put in a little bit at a time, a little bit every day, outside of class. That you may not do on an all-level course.
And I think, too, it's about putting in that time, but doing it the right way.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say for this question is passive studying, right? Just taking notes. Yep. You take your highlighter and you end up highlighting the whole paragraph because it's all on board. You're not really kind of focused. And so just kind of switching and going to kind of active learning and really figuring out why you got something wrong or what's the question about or the root of that question is really key to, having success and doing better in those AP courses versus the on-level ones.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yep.
Mine's similar, but for math, you probably are given lots of practice questions. But those practice questions sometimes are maybe catered to helping you in your unit test that your teacher gives you, right? Doesn't necessarily expand through the entire course and connect from one unit to the next. So when you go to your AP exam, you've only practiced those questions catered to your class and what your teacher was wanting in that moment. So if you're only practicing the same as the example question per se, then you're not going to be able to grow and expand those skills. And I think that's the key takeaway from what we've been saying is that the growth that you have to do kind of outside of what's expected in class. And sometimes, it's even beyond, okay, you can say, oh, go take your homework home and do it. But it's more than that, right? It's expanding yourself, not necessarily exactly what your teacher says. She or he can only, help you there, not help you and your peers in class, not necessarily in the evening time when you're preparing extra for your courses. So I think that's a big one.
I agree.
Okay. This next one, sorry, I lost my place. How much should students rely, this kind of connects to what we just said, but how much should students rely on their teacher versus outside resources?
So I'm going to try not to say it depends with every question. So it depends on your teacher. It depends on the method I just did. So there are some teachers, some of my mentor teachers, when I first started teaching AP courses, they were lecturers. And you could get away with not reading. I mean, they explain things so well to their students. I mean, sometimes you might have a teacher who, and there's nothing wrong with this, they're first, second, third year teaching, and they're still getting kind of used to the course, and you might need a little bit of outside help. And so there's different tools out there, and I think you're gonna use them no matter who your teacher is. But I think it depends on that class, and a lot of it depends on your teacher, because some teachers, they might expect you to, they may not lecture, and they do all discussion in class, group work, and so you're gonna do a lot more outside, and you're gonna need to use those resources. And then some courses, I mean, the newsflash, sometimes you get a teacher who struggles to teach. I think we can all admit that. And so if that's the case,
Teachers can still learn and grow.
Teachers learn and grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look back at my first couple of years, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. How did any of my students pass?
But there's so many resources out there. But having one or two good ones,
Yeah.
and not feeling like you
Quality
need,
ones.
yes, and not feel like you have to get everything.
Yeah.
Like every review book that has ever been made.
Oh, that's good.
And I think too, not for every topic, right? Because I think first and foremost is your teacher. But like everyone else said, sometimes you have those topics that the teacher taught it. Maybe in class you understood and you nodded and it was nice and great. But then you go back and do your homework and you're like, what? And so then in those cases, some topics are just harder to understand. Or maybe you just don't understand the way your teacher teaches it. We all teach differently, right? Some students get it, some students don't. Some students like visual aids, some like straight lecture. So depending on your teacher, your topic, and even your style of learning, those outside resources might be super valuable.
That's good. Just to add to that and kind of align with what we've been saying so far is that growth that you need to get from that 3 to the 5, or even just to get to that 3 sometimes. You have to put in the outside work. We keep saying that. You have to put in the outside work. So obviously, teachers, number one, they're going to know, they're going to be your expert. They're going to be that one-on-one. That is critical. Asking questions is critical. Getting that feedback from your teacher is critical. I cannot stress that enough. But when you want to push yourself, grow yourself, those valuable, high-quality outside resources are going to be important, especially for these advanced courses. Now, shameless plug here. UWorld, we do, follow the CED. We do have those high quality explanations. We tell you why you're right and why you're wrong. Or, like maybe you chose C, but the answer is A. We're not only telling you why A was the right answer, we're telling you why C was incorrect, and maybe a common mistake that happens to get to that incorrect answer. So, we're a great resource. College Board has lots out there for you as well. So use the resources that you have to grow yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, here's an interesting one. What's the one thing you wish every student did by October?
Please ask questions in class. Okay, so I'm talking to you out there, AP student. Please ask questions, because, and it does a couple different things. Number one is it makes class, it really helps your teacher out. And it makes that teacher feel like they're doing their job. And also ask questions, because a lot of students just to feel like they're like, I'm in over my head by October. I don't know what's going on, but if I raise my hand, I don't want to look dumb. And everyone's thinking that. And usually what happens is the 2 or 3 kids monopolize the questions, and everybody's like, well, I'm done. And nobody wants to look dumb. It's such a myth. But oh my gosh, like if you can even just 4 or 5 students that start asking questions, it's such a better learning environment. And I promise if you ask those questions, you're doing everyone else a favor.
I
too.
agree. Well, it's easy when you're confident in something
Sure.
to ask a question, but that's not when you need the question.
Sure.
So let's be honest. It's important, and I've discovered this. We're grown and we've learned things outside of school, but like in high school, you don't want to be dumb. You don't want to be.
You don't want to be
dumb
seen
or embarrassed or. But here's the thing, you can only grow when you fail at things. So I shouldn't say only. Growth happens when you fail. And so if you're asking a question that may sound really dumb in the moment, it's not. It's revealing to you, your peers, and your teacher where maybe some concepts are lacking, and where extra help is needed. So like, even though it may feel like I really have no idea what's going on, but Simon over here has everything under his belt. He understands I can't ever get to this. Okay, Simon's got it. Great. But you don't. You are valuable enough to learn and to grow in that way. So don't be afraid to fail in that sense of asking questions that you might think might be a little silly in the moment. I think that's great.
I think for me too on that topic is there really is no like dumb question.
Yeah.
As a teacher, I've been in the classroom for a long time. And every time a student asks me a question, I'm not like, oh, I got to explain this now. I'm really happy that a student asked the question because it gives me the opportunity to do a better job at teaching. Maybe I didn't teach great the first time. Maybe I didn't explain it. You don't get it. One of your peers probably doesn't get it.
Yep.
And the one kid in the back certainly doesn't get it. So let's do it again. And I'll try to make it differently. Or, answer those questions in a different way that maybe make it relatable to you. And so I think every question is a great opportunity for growth and learning.
Yeah, that's good.
In terms of your initial questions about what to do in October. I'm a planner. And so the exams are far away, but I think start planning for that exam. What are you going to do, not just on test day, but what are you going to do to get there, right? What are your study plans? What are your notes going to look like? How are you practicing? Start thinking about that already in October because that test is going to come before you know it.
That's good. For math specifically, well, I really could apply to any of the courses. I really suggest that, again, you take the kind of next step forward and you start explaining an occasional question. So say you've got a question set. You work it out, great. You can do the formulas. You can apply that concept. Now, take a moment in the little beside the question and explain the reasoning, explain the theorems that you use, explain whatever you did to get to that point. That will help you with your FRQs in the future, especially for math, but same for any of the APs, because you're already thinking, you're already starting to think like an AP tester at that point. But more than that, you're growing, you're learning, you're actually applying and understanding the concept that way. You're explaining. If you're able to explain why you got here, that is really what takes you to that next step. So, maybe every homework set do 2 questions that you can explain off to the side just to help get you in that rhythm and kind of develop your understanding.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think teaching concepts to other students, like your peers, really goes a long ways because then you become the expert.
Yeah. Okay. The next question. How do you help a student who's convinced they're just not good at your subject?
So I think this is a really great question because there's tons of subjects that I feel like when I was in class, I was not good at. And I think it goes down to being passionate about it. And it seems kind of kitschy and like, but I think bringing interest to that, I feel like I wasn't good at something because I didn't try at first and then I fell behind and then I was not good at it and I just kept that in my mind, not good. So trying to bring a level of interest to the coursework and engagement, I think helps students like a lot to try to get them engaged and you can do it and just motivate them to really be in the course and to learn the material. I found that's really helpful, Phil.
Yeah, I think everyone has, like I'm a history guy, but like I love science.
Right.
Huge space nerd. So I think like Simon said, like it's about the passion, right? Like it might you might have to work a little bit harder in order to become that whatever history person, but at the like I said, I think it just you've got to put in a little bit more effort, and growth is what's to come.
Everyone has the capacity to do anything they want. It's just about just getting there, putting in a little bit of work, maybe understanding it this way, and just really be motivated. Get that passion, get that interest.
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle in this is yourself. So the second you start talking negatively about anything, but especially about class, oh, I'm just not good at math. Well, of course you're not going to be good at math if you're telling yourself you're not good at math, right? So first of all, get over that biggest hurdle of yourself, and then you can go from there. I know we are getting close on time, so I'm going to, let's do this next question, and then I'm going to ask one subject-specific question for each of y'all, okay? So the next question is, and this is kind of subject-specific, right? What's a free response mistake that you see over and over, even from strong students?
Not planning your essay. This is one always. And so the way that I wouldn't let my students write. I wouldn't even give them the documents for like a DBQ until they had actually planned it, which you can't do that on the exam. But that planning at the beginning, I can't tell you how much that will help you on your essays, because you got a roadmap. So many times I've seen students who they start writing and they're halfway through their essay and they're like, I'm writing about the wrong thing.
Where I was going.
I don't know where this is. And then you see the mark, they scratch out, they start over again. And so, just planning, have an outline. Like, this is my thesis, because, and this is what we say in history, at least I say, that the how and the why is way more important than the who, the what, and the when, like all the facts. So an essay that analyzes and explains has way more, gravitas than one that's just laundry list facts.
Mine a little bit goes along the same lines, and it's really stop writing so much, right? The prompt has a task verb for the sciences. Answer what the prompt asks. Don't write a whole bunch of stuff. And within that planning, make your answer clear. As a reader, it's really hard for me at times to get exactly what you are writing and where you wrote it and what prompt you're answering. And in those cases, I literally can't award the point because I don't know what you're writing. It's buried in 3 paragraphs of stuff that is just irrelevant. So just pare down your answers, only answer what the prompt is asking.
Let the readers like you, not hate you for having to read the whole passage.
Yeah. Never mark anything out, because you never know if you might actually mark out something that's correct.
Yeah.
So that's true, but sometimes in sciences, if you write the wrong thing, that negates that negates the point. Yeah.
So plan well, basically. Yes. Plan well. For math specifically, I think, and your teacher probably has said this to you or will say it to you since we're at the beginning of the year, is not showing your full work. So unlike maybe science, where if you put the wrong thing, you're going to get it marked off. If you are setting up your work correctly, but then make a calculation error and get the wrong answer, you're still going to get those points for setup and process, right? Whereas if you don't show your work and you just show an answer, there's no points available to you. So, definitely show all of your work and make sure you're actually answering the question. So if a question needs units, make sure you're including those units. Okay, so now I'm going to do course-specific questions for each. First, we'll do the math one. Is calculator dependency actually hurting students on part of the exam? And I would say definitely. Now, with some caveats there. So calculators are super helpful. We have them every day. We have them in our phones. Use the calculator. However, don't get too reliant on them for everything. This ties back to everything that we're saying. Well, first of all, calculus only has part of the exam that is calculator based and part of the exam that's not. So right there, that hurts you because you can't use it for everything. But for any course in general, being able to click buttons doesn't mean you're truly understanding. So use your calculator, but don't overly rely on it. Okay? AP History.
Okay.
How do you organize hundreds of names and dates
okay.
without just brute force memorizing.
I knew this was coming. Okay, so I'm going to use a metaphor here, and if it doesn't work for you, don't use it. So I like to think of it like when Disneyland opened back in the 50s. Okay, so this is way back in the 1900s when they had all these different lands. They had like Tomorrowland, and they had like Ventureland. Yeah, okay.
You're speaking my language.
Yeah, okay. Because like no one had ever been there, no one knew what to expect, but everything was kind of organized,
Yeah.
right? So you didn't see as long as you knew where certain things were, like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride is over here, or this ride is over here. That's kind of way to think about history. What I mean by that is like think of it like in sections. Like, oh, this is so for APUSH, it's the Progressive Era. Oh, for WAP, it's the Enlightenment, and then for AP Euro, it might be decolonization. And then there's certain things, rides, if you will, they kind of fit into that. So if you kind of think of like an amusement park, like groupings of things, then you're not just like, then you're not just going through a whole laundry list of facts.
Kind of have like a map.
Yeah, build it, draw it out, make it a amusement. Yeah, draw
I'm
an
always a
amusement park.
fan of drawing it out. Use your mirror in your room.
There you go.
Draw it out. All right. Let's do, for science, how much do labs actually matter for the exam versus just the class grade?
Yeah, so this is a really great question because on the exams, the labs aren't going to be replicated. You're not going to ask what was your, O2 concentration for the photosynthesis lab for apes, right? They're not going to ask that. But that being said, they're super critical for building skills. The AP sciences are all about skills and applying them to different scenarios, different situations, and making connections across topics. And there's also lab components, right? Some of the science practices are figuring out what the hypothesis is, what is the independent variable. And so having done those labs, you've practiced a whole bunch, and you've built up your skills to be able to answer them. So yes, in class, they're just class grades, but the skills that you learn from them are the exam, the whole exam, right? It's just applying what you learn to these different scenarios. And
Taking it that step further, right?
Yep, exactly.
All right. Let's do one more just general question for all of us. Are APs worth taking if a student doesn't plan to go into that respective field in the future? So say, is AP's bio worth taking if you're not going to be a doctor?
So I think it is, because if you're going to college, right, you're going to need those credits.
Yeah.
And so you might not be a doctor, but you're going to get some classes out of the way, and that's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, and it's going to better prepare you. And I think in general, having a good foundation of our living world around us that the science brings is critical for you to be kind of the best you can be at being a human and being a person.
Yeah. What about you?
Yes, you should. I mean, history.
Well, writing skills, right?
Yeah, right. History is writing. History is also stories. It's also about people. It's about what's happened before us, and there's lessons to be learned.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, and not everybody's going to be a historian.
Yeah.
But you're going to do writing in college. You're going to do writing in life, and you're going to do critical thinking in life.
Well, I'll claim that math is everywhere, and of course you should take it. Even calculus, it's everywhere. But without sounding mathy, all the skills you learn and all of these courses are valuable for any future that you go into.
And I think too, going back to what we talked about, just not being lazy, right?
Yeah.
Putting in the extra work sometimes.
Being a better
just-
person.
Exactly. Kind of getting yourself geared up to the real world. I mean, everyone has jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to work at them. And that, those AP skills are related to that.
That's true. Outside of just the content itself.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, y'all. I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us. If you would like to take it one step further for any of your AP courses, we have a ton of resources here at UWorld. Visit collegeprep.uworld.com/AP and sign up for a free trial for any or all of your AP courses that you're taking this year. We'll stay around for a few more minutes on this video. Drop any questions that you have in the comments, and our moderator will answer them for you. Good luck this year.